"If I have a son you shall have him," said the king's son. In a twinkling the giant put each garden, and orchard, and castle in the bundle as they were before. "Now," says the giant, "take your own road, and I will take mine, but mind your promise, and if you forget I will remember." The king's son took to the road, and at the end of a few days he reached the place he was fondest of. He loosed the bundle, and the castle was just as it was before. And when he opened the castle door he sees the handsomest maiden he ever cast eye upon. "Advance, king's son," said the pretty maid, "everything is in order for you, if you will marry me this very day." "It's I that am willing," said the king's son, and on the same day they married. But at the end of a day and 7 years, who should be seen coming to the castle but the giant? The king's son was reminded of his promise to the giant. Until now he had not told his promise to the queen. "Leave the matter between me and the giant," says the queen. "Turn out your son," says the giant. "Mind your promise, you shall have him," says the king. When his mother puts him in order for his journey, the queen dressed up the cook's son, and she gave him to the giant by the hand. The giant went away with him, but he had not gone far when he put a rod in the hand of the little laddie. The giant asked him, "If thy father had that rod, what would he do with it?" "If my father had that rod he would beat the dogs and the cats, so that they shouldn't be going near the king's meat," said the little laddie. "Thaw-oo," cried the cook's son, said the giant. He catches him by the two small ankles and knocks him against a stone that was beside him. The giant turned back to the castle in rage and madness, and he said that if they did not send out the king's son to him, the highest stone of the castle would be the lowest. Said the queen to the king, "We'll try it yet. The butler's son is of the same age as our son." She dressed up the butler's son, and she gives him to the giant by the hand. The giant had not gone far when he put the rod in his hand. "If thy father had that rod," says the giant, "what would he do with it?" "He would beat the dogs and the cats when they would be coming near the king's bottles and glasses." "Thou art the son of the butler," says the giant, and dashed his brains out too. The giant returned in a very great rage and anger. The earth shook under the sole of his feet, and the castle shook and all that was in it. "Out here with thy son," says the giant, "or in a twinkling the stone that is highest in the dwelling will be the lowest." So they had to give the king's son to the giant. When they were gone a little bit from the earth, the giant showed him the rod that was in his hand and said, "What would thy father do with this rod if he had it?" The king's son said, "My father has a braver rod than that." And the giant asked him, "Where is thy father when he has that brave rod?" And the king's son said, "He will be sitting in his kingly chair." Then the giant understood that he had the right one. The giant took him to his own house, and he reared him as his own son. On a day of days when the giant was from home, the lad heard the sweetest music he ever heard in a room at the top of the giant's house. At a glance he saw the finest face he had ever seen. She beckoned to him to come a bit nearer to her, and she said her name was Auburn Mary, but she told him to go this time, but to be sure to be at the same place about that dead midnight. And as he promised he did. The giant's daughter was at her side in a twinkling, and she said, "Tomorrow you will get the choice of my 2 sisters to marry, but say that you will not take either, but me. My father wants me to marry the son of the king of the Green City, but I don't like him." On the morrow the giant took out his 3 daughters, and he said, "Now, son of the king of Tether Town, thou hast not lost by living with me so long. Thou wilt get to wife one of the 2 eldest of my daughters, and with her leave to go home with her the day after the wedding. If you will give me this pretty little one," says the king's son, "I will take you at your word." The giant's wrath kindled, and he said, "Before thou gest her thou must do the 3 things that I ask thee to do." "Say on," says the king's son. The giant took him to the byre. "Now," says the giant, 100 cattle are stabled here, and it has not been cleansed for 7 years. I am going from home today, and if this byre is not cleaned before night comes, so clean that a golden apple will run from end to end of it,